Nenad, how are you doing, man? It's been a long time since I met you.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. I'm doing great. Excited for this open air interview.
Yeah, I hope you like my faculty.
Yeah, man, it's creatively inspiring, and I don't know if people cannot see, but it's because
It's a good place. It's a good place. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I spent my last 3 years over here. But talking about last 3 years, you started your YouTube channel around that time, right?
yes, I think it's coming about 2 years now.
Uh-huh.
I think we're like 1.5 or so, maybe a bit more. And but yeah. So the channel was open before that, but it wasn't like used or updated or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
But I started getting serious posting stuff like I think a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
That's when I made a decision to, if I'm gonna post videos, let's do it seriously, and that's when it started.
But all of a sudden, you made that change about becoming serious.
Yeah.
Did you ever run out of ideas
Ideas of
making videos?
yeah, I mean this is the one of the main struggle. So I'm making 3 videos a week.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a lot of videos. If you put it into a year and a half, it's I have over 300 videos on my channel, right? So it's a lot of videos to make.
Uh-huh.
And the question is always, how do you make content? What content you make about? How creative can you make? How much can you recycle certain content? So I think the hardest part of being consistent is this was definitely getting over the obstacle of, what can I make video about?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the obstacle.
That was a big one of the many, of course. I mean, you got to need the time, you need the energy. You got to pick up the skills of editing and making things happen and posting. So there's a lot of things that people probably don't see if you don't have a YouTube channel, like the quality of the video, the sound, the lighting. So there's a lot of things that goes into it. And I had to learn pretty much about everything. Right.
And how much time did you spend overall in a week for 3 videos?
Now, much less. At the beginning, far more.
Really?
Especially on the post edit. You record something and then you gotta go, in the app and stuff and edit it. And at the beginning, I had to learn how to do it, how to do the thing work, how the app work as well. So it's a big learning curve. So it was taking a lot of time. I had to look at tutorials online and things. Now, for example, yesterday afternoon, I took some time. I made 2 videos, edited 2 videos, and scheduled them on my YouTube.
Uh-huh.
So I'm able to create content faster, way faster than before, but it still takes a couple of hours a week for sure.
Okay. But didn't your public speaking experience help you?
I think so. I think so, yeah, because it's a difference because you're not per se doing public speaking, you're speaking in front of a camera. So at the beginning, looking at the camera or just having that flow in front of a camera is very different than a group of person.
You feel like a weirdo, just looking into a camera.
Yeah, it's weird, I mean, I was recording with my phone at first, right? So you have it like this, and you're just talking to that thing there that's on the thread, on the thread things, whatever it's called. And there's this, obstacle of like going to the flow, just being able to imagine, okay, there are people behind it that are watching the video and trying to be engaging, even though all you see is, the back of your phone and there's no cue whether people are paying attention, whether they're liking or anything that helps you adapt. Whether if you're in an audience, you see how people are reacting, if they're following you, if you need to pause, if you need to, go over certain things again. But for the camera, the learning curve is different. But, definitely public speaking helps in some ways to be actually better at communicating. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Because when I started YouTube because I saw this cinematographer called Peter McKinnon, and I was really inspired by his videography. It was a way of expressing himself.
Okay.
So I wanted to do the same thing. But when I started, I was like, I wanted to make videos just like him. But then my output was completely different. It was the difference of beginner and an expert. So I think there's an aspect of consistency as well in it, right? Okay. But it always felt so weird talking into the camera. But because of that, like since I persisted on that, I became a bit more confident, I would say. So has something like that happened to you after starting your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, look, you gotta also not make the mistake of comparing yourself with somebody who's been doing it for 5 years, who's very good at it, very comfortable, who has, his own style and experience, right? So if you just start out, you gotta also realize that, well, you gotta pick up all of this. So there's a curve of learning, getting comfortable, getting better, and that's okay. What helped me a lot, I think, for me personally, was just to relax.
Just relax.
Just relax. At some point, you're like you're getting better, and you're just getting more into the flow.
Okay.
And I think this is what allowed me to kind of go a little bit off script, because I like to kind of plan out what are the big picture of my videos gonna be, the hook, the main message, and the call to action, whatever, just to see a little bit what I want to share with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, I was really trying to stay on the script and so on. And what I realized is that it was actually easier for me to just let myself flow.
Okay.
As I was going around, and bring more emotion, bring more voice tonality, and just kind of like
be natural.
Be natural. And to do that, you gotta relax. You gotta relax. You gotta loosen up, and you just gotta do your monologue and be happy about it. Kind of thing.
Be happy.
That's it.
Let's be happy.
And it makes a big difference, because when you relax, you're less in your head, and you can actually start, I think, to create better content. At least for me, I think I largely prefer the content I'm creating now versus a year ago, which thank God as well.
It feels better as well, right?
It feels better, the views are better, the comments are better. So there's definitely been an evolution. And I think this is what I call defining your style, finding your maybe your own rhythm on camera, on YouTube, what you want to do, how you talk about, and how close you want to be. So you can be very creative, right? There is no like, oh, you just gotta have this way, that angle, that light, that thing. You can make it any way you want.
Yes.
So it's also being part of like, what way do you want to make it? What feels like most natural and authentic to you right now? And finding this takes a bit of time.
Definitely. But then it's very interesting, because finding your style, when you start YouTube, you just want to be big. You want to be that guy who everybody knows, who makes videos, is getting passive income, right? But then rather than enjoying the journey, we only focus on the goal. And what I've come to realize nowadays is it's more important to enjoy the process, because after you reach the goal, you had not enjoyed the process, feel like there's something missing in the end. So it's very, I mean, I'm still trying to find out why, but it's very, very interesting. And I think you're a specialist in these aspects, though, about self-image and a lot of other things. So, like, before I get into that, I just wanted to ask you, like, what made you get into this industry?
Wow, long story, long story there. But I've always had passion, curiosity for personal development, psychology, and mindset, all these type of things. Even though when I was like just 20 and so on, I was already going to courses, reading books. So it was just a hobby for me.
Okay.
Because it was just like all about my own self-growth, my own journey. So initially it was just information that I found very captivating, very interesting, and that's very useful in my life. So after a certain time, I started to realize, wow, I really like this type of thing, right? And one of my mentor, to come down the story, in when I was 25, 26, told me like, why don't you do something with that? Because you seem to be very passionate, you spend a lot of time, you seem to be also, very good at this. And so why don't you go for it? Go into coaching, make something of it. And I started reflecting, I was like, okay, why not? I mean, I never considered it. And one day I took the leap.
Okay.
Went to get some coaching certification and NLP and hypnotherapy and stuff, and went in business helping others. So that's how it started.
That's how it started.
Massive leap of faith and following your passion and going for it. That's how I started.
That's how you started. And you went to Australia as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, as part of learning, getting certifications and stuff. And that's when I went to Australia to get what I felt like was needed for me to be able to help others.
Nice. So you told me once that you were a very shy guy before.
Yeah.
And you told me that you changed your self-image. So can you, okay, first of all, tell me what is a self-image?
Yep.
And second of all, how can someone spot it? Except I know like you see the output in your life, like how things are happening, it's a reflection of your self-image. But except that indicator, is there any other way to find out what's your self-image?
So to answer the first question first, self-image is really, your sense of identity, how you see yourself. So it's basically all the thoughts, beliefs, values that you have about yourself, your personalities, your values, what you can, what you cannot do, how you limit yourself. So we all have some of those. I mean, the cliche will be people who are very self-conscious. I'm not pretty. I'm not. I'm too fat. So they have like a part of their self-image, as this, weakness, unhealthy association with their body, right? So they think that their body somehow is not pretty, sexy, or attractive enough. So it can come up in this big way. So if we just stay on this area, for example, just to give an example, a tangible example, imagine somebody who feels that they're genuinely ugly, unattractive, and that they struggle to connect with people. They feel like, people don't find me attractive, so I cannot find the right person or so on. If you look at this kind of identity that that person has, and if you look at how they treat themselves, how a person think and feel, the action, decisions, and habit that they have, everything will be tied up to reinforce that sense of identity, because people have a natural desire to remain consistent with the way they see themselves. That's one of our deepest psychological need, to remain consistent with our self-image, right? So if you think of yourself that you're ugly, you are going to act in a way that is ugly. So maybe you're not taking care of yourself. Maybe you struggle with insecurities. Maybe you don't speak up. Maybe you don't wear makeup. Maybe you
don't dress well. You don't go exercise.
Yeah. And recently there was this big popular thing on Japanese TV, right, about this this woman in her mid-20s who was, very labeled as shy, insecure, not outgoing, always wearing a mask because she was thinking she was, ugly and so on.
You mentioned it in your video, right?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier because it's such a beautiful example, right? And then what happened is that they offered her to take, Italian classes with a tutor as part of her personal development for work.
Yes.
Right? And she was like, okay, if it's all paid for, why not? Right? And what she didn't know is that that's free stuff. And what she didn't know is that the person they hired to teach her Italian was a Japanese Italian model.
Oh.
And his main goal was not to teach her Italian, but was to give her a compliment every session multiple times.
Yes.
So he would give her a compliment on how fast she's learning, her pronunciation, how good she feels, how smart she is. Everything he could, compliment, ecologically, he would do that. And so what happened after 30 days or so on is that her personality completely changed. She loosened up the mask, started wearing makeup, started posting photos, selfies of herself on social media, started becoming far more, extroverted in her communication and so on. And so you could say that her whole life dynamic has changed because her self-image has changed. It's regarding. So that doesn't just apply about your physique.
Yes.
Right? It can stop you in your creative ability. It can stop you in your ability to make money, to achieve more success, to go for the things you want. I mean, how many people I talk about and they feel like, oh, I'm not smart enough, or, I'm not confident enough or good enough to.
It's only for the rich. I'm not going to be fit.
Yeah. It works for them, but not for me. I wouldn't know. I don't know. I don't have the skills, the talent, the ability to start my own business, my own YouTube channel, my own thing. And so they're so insecure because the way they see themselves is being very limited.
Yes.
The way they talk to themselves, so the internal dialogue and attitude toward themselves is extremely limited.
You don't know what happened to me.
Yeah, and so they got these stories, those excuses, and without that realizing, those thoughts, those voices are simply an echo of something deeper, which is fundamentally their own sense of identity. Okay, and so the reason why a lot of people don't go for what they want is because they are currently identified with a certain pattern, with a certain personality that does a certain job, earns a certain amount of money, does certain type of things, and all they do is remain consistent with that. That's what people call the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Mhm. So everything you do is related to your self-image. So to answer your second question, how do you become aware of that? The answer is self-awareness. If you don't pay attention to who you are, how you speak, how you talk to yourself, how you feel about yourself, how confident you are, what makes you feel insecure, what limits you,
Okay.
And if you also don't look at the result that you're currently getting in your life, you're not going to have any form of information about who you are. So what tends to happen then is that people then project and be like, I am where I am
because of that person.
Because of the economy, and COVID fucked me up, and my parents were not good enough, and this happened, and my ex was a bitch, and so it's always external. But people have to fundamentally realize that one thing is that I am where I am because of who I am. So yes, you probably had challenges, failures, unfortunate things that happen to you. Like all of us had to deal with certain things in our life, okay? But at some point, you gotta look and be like, okay, now what do I do? Am I gonna create a whole identity and a whole life story around all of this crap? Or I'm gonna start to expand the way I think about myself, what I'm capable, what I can do, how much I can earn, what I can create, and then become a better person so I can start to, create new results in my life.
But how do you become that better person?
Well, the first step is to know what you want.
Okay, how do you know what you want?
Well, you ask yourself, and it's a simple question, but difficult to answer for a lot of people because it's everybody will tell you, I want more money, more time, more freedom, more love. But that's very superficial because who doesn't?
Everybody does.
Right? So it's easy to say, I want this stuff and, never really go down to be like, what is success for you? How would you know you have that success? How would you know you reach, what would bring you the most joy?
Yeah.
So you don't have to figure out everything now, right? Mm-hmm. But you gotta be able to define certain goals for at least 6 months, 1 year from now. Who do you want to be? How do you want to have to change? What do you want to improve? What do you want to get better at? Setting goals gives direction. Okay. If you don't have directions, you're going to drift. You're going to be a drifter. This is in what Dale Carnegie would call a drifter, or if you read Think and Grow Rich, the first principle of Think and Grow Rich is you must have a burning desire. So in other words, you must have some form of fucking goals, some form of destination.
Yeah.
If you look at people who have no goals, no passion, nothing, they're just drifting through life.
You don't want to be around them sometimes.
And because they're just going to the same job, they do the same thing, so their life is very predictable.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a goal, you will be busy making other people's goal work and become a priority and become a reality, right? So you must decide for yourself what you want as much as you can right now and start to go for those. Because if your mind is like a GPS, when you have a destination in mind, you can focus on something. So you can tell your mind, this is where I want to go. Let's learn what we need to learn. Let's do what we need. Let's build up the new habits. Let's create that new personality identity that will get me there.
Yes.
So, for example, when I started my coaching business, I was coming from being a scuba diving instructor, which is a very different identity than being self-employed and being a coach.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when they transition into a new thing, whatever it might be, they have this I feel fake, that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
It's not me, right? And that just represents the attachment to the old self, right? And that's what I told you. Our deepest need is to remain consistent with who we are, right? So we feel fake when we are acting out of the normal box that we live in. So when I transitioned into having to make marketing and sales and coaching, everything was new. Everything was different. And I felt like, oh my God, who am I to help others? Who am I to charge? Who am I to be this expert all of a sudden? People are, and what are people going to say? All my friends saw me as a scuba diving instructor for so long, and now all of a sudden I'm shifting. So what are they going to say, right? So it creates all those insecurities, and this is when you are shaking off the old foundation that made you, so to speak, right? And this is good. It's necessary. It's like the phoenix metaphor. You have to burn and then you're born again, or like a snake shedding its skin.
Be born again in the same life.
Right. So I used to struggle a lot because I never saw myself as a salesperson. I never saw myself as a business owner. I never saw myself as a coach. So for you to run a successful business, you better embody an identity of being a successful salesman, being a successful business owner, being able to provide value and help other people. You must have these beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll tell you straight away, you'll either give up or you'll get broke and have to go back somewhere else, right?
So when you say embody, you mean embody that energy of a businessman?
That energy, the mindset, the thoughts, and the actions as well.
Okay.
Right. So I used to struggle a lot with selling.
Okay.
Was very uncomfortable, at that moment in my life. Selling, I was feeling like, oh my God, I had all this belief around sales about, and people will reject you, and people don't like being sold, and sales people are greedy and whatever, right?
And you've been through some toxic environments, bro.
But it's interesting because at first, I told you earlier, you have to start to become aware of that belief system.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you remain, unaware. Sure. And then you cannot change it. But then I started to also realize that, a better definition of selling is serving. The only way I can help those people with my skills and knowledge is by selling my package, selling my program, selling my coaching.
Yeah.
So I had to completely change my perspective of like what sales mean. And then being able for me to notice that by selling, I was actually helping others, right? Okay. And then conditioning that I can learn sales, I can sell, I can talk, I can market, I can sell myself, and overcome all that pattern of being seen, that I used to have, because a lot of people also, I notice, like to play small. They like to hide. They like to not be the center of the attention. They like to put, just being kind of nice.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah. And so when you're self-employed, that doesn't work because everything depends on you. You depend on yourself, right? So you gotta provide for yourself. You gotta make everything. You gotta be self-initiated. And that's why I said, like, I had to completely undo a lot of my old identity and to completely become a different person so that I could start acting congruently as a business person and a coach and a salesperson and a marketer, so I can start to then help other people and make something out of my business. The same process happened when I was starting to become a YouTuber. It's like, okay, can I start relating myself as a YouTuber who has an audience, who can teach, help others, and provide value?
Yes.
So the key here is really like, it's not to wait that you win until you start to see yourself, but it's like, how can I implant that belief in myself first, right? And this is where people miss the train a lot, is that they lack that bridge and they remain stuck in who they used to be, trying to create new results in their life.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So they take one step forward, two step back. They procrastinate, they make excuses, they start, and then at some point they just quit and go back to what they used to be.
Yeah. But then, like, one of the tools that you've mentioned in your channel is visualization, definitely. How do you actually visualize? Because when you close your eyes, a lot of thoughts come to your head, right?
Yeah.
So how do you stop all of those thoughts and then start visualizing your future?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just start to relax a little bit,
okay.
The key in any form of mind work is relaxation. it's so much easier to use visualization or to focus your thoughts or the mental picture in your mind when you're relaxed. What you're describing is how busy your mind is when you're not paying attention.
Yes.
That's why meditation is so good, because it can help you at distance, detach, right? Notice everything that's happening. So again, when you are starting to visualize for the first time or starting to use those mental tools, don't expect yourself to be the best straight away. Because for a lot of people, what I notice, it is a learning curve as well of just learning to do it, learning to visualize, learning to create mental movies. And at first, maybe they cannot see it fully. They cannot see the vividness straight away. They cannot add, feeling, sense, or touches, right? So it's about creating that flexibility, just like a muscle when you start working out at the gym. Yeah. So start where you are, but don't just give up because, I can't visualize. I tried 5 minutes, it didn't work out. And then I tell myself I can't. And I create this as part of my identity. I can't visualize, I can't meditate, it's not for me. You see how people then put that limitation on, even though science will show you the tremendous benefits, and a lot of sports people and success people will tell you how powerful visualization is. Mm-hmm. And so it works for every fucking body, but not for you. So wake up, motherfucker. You gotta you gotta snap yourself sometimes out of how limited you are.
Yeah.
Because you try something for 5 minutes doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you're fucking lazy and you took the way out easy.
Yes.
That's just the way it is, right? So sometimes you gotta have that self-talk with yourself where you can't just quit because it didn't work for 5 minutes.
Take responsibility.
Yeah. So you wouldn't go and run a marathon when you haven't run for 10 years.
Oh,
you wouldn't expect that on anybody. So it's the same thing. Do it, commit, do it for at least 30 days and then reassess, right? Some tools might work better for you. That's normal. But don't put yourself in a box being like, this doesn't work for me. I tried, it doesn't work. So I'm just going to do the same old shit again. Right? So
give it some time.
Yeah, give it some time, practice, develop those tools. And I guarantee you those are the best freaking tools you'll ever create in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do I know that I am doing this properly?
That's another trick that the mind plays on you.
Okay.
When am I doing right? Am I visualizing right? Is it the proper way? Is it the proper strategy? Is it the proper... Those type of limiting thought, that self-doubt, is the exact same self-doubt that holds you back in every other area of your life. And people don't realize that the mind works in pattern. So when you're trying to visualize, meditate, or use any of those mental tools, you have this form of doubt arising. Realize that first you cannot do it wrong. Okay, it's a learning process, so it's better to do it and not doing it perfectly than not doing it.
Yes.
Okay, but also realize that thought is one of the beliefs that's actually holding you back. Because I guarantee you that if you go and start your own podcast, your own YouTube channel, or you're trying to get the same promotion or whatever, similar thought will come into your mind.
I'm not good enough for this. Maybe it won't work.
Maybe I'm doing wrong. Maybe something's missing. Maybe I should wait. Maybe it is. Maybe that.
Today's not the right day. I would say another indicator is your life starts changing if you do it consistently, right?
So the best, if you're familiar with the concept of compound investment or compounding, what you'll notice is that the result at first are extremely
it's just
non-existent.
It's almost like a straight line.
Exactly. So it's almost non-existent, right? And then at some point, it just takes off, and it's crazy, right? There's like
it's just like bamboos. Like they don't grow for 3 years.
And then it's massive.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful mental picture, because I think this is where a lot of people, especially today, I notice, and even in my life, because I'm not exempt from any of this, is we like instant gratification. I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes and I want it all to be clear.
Done.
Clear, done, dusted, let's move on.
I need a 6-minute workout for the 6-pack abs.
Exactly. I've been talking to myself like shit for 10 years, and I'm just going to visualize 2-3 days. do my gratitude for 2-3 days, then I want to undo all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And people have this delusional idea of change happening. So I'm not saying that for some people it can be fast, it can be profound, it can be radical, right? But for most people, just like when you go to the gym, you're probably not going to notice much at the beginning.
Yes.
Or if you notice things, it's going to be small little wins.
Yes.
Maybe you're feeling a little bit better. Maybe you're 20% less anxious today. Maybe you have more maybe you manage your anxiety more. Maybe you're a bit more outspoken. Maybe you're a bit more relaxed in this situation, right? So small wins. But that's where you got to keep at it, because most people, they're very good at doing something, and then somehow
They quit.
they don't even know that they're quitting, and they kind of just stop.
Let it go.
Yeah. And before they know it, their old identity just pulled them right back where they started.
Man, self-awareness is so important.
And they don't realize it, and they're back doing the same old shit again. That's why you gotta keep at it. And I recommend, one of the simplest exercise that I give every single one of my clients is a gratitude journal for a minimum of 30 days every single morning.
That's a game changer.
It's a game changer. And you gotta do it at least 30 days for you to start noticing
the
changes and how good it is, and the mindset and the headspace and what it creates for you in your life and how it changes your thinking. Yeah. So keep at it is extremely important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gratitude journal. Yeah, I remember I started it last year, and first 2-3 months, not even 1 month, 2-3 months was like crazy, because it would take me like an hour at least, because I never really knew what gratitude was until I practiced it. And then first 3 months, it was extremely difficult. But afterwards, it was just like you said, like that bamboo example, compound interest example. All of a sudden, I started feeling it much more easier and easier and easier.
Exactly.
And life became much more easier as well. Like, you're more relaxed. If something bad happens, you feel bad for a second, but then you're back to being grateful. And surprisingly, if something bad happened and I was grateful, something good happens afterwards. But if something bad happened and I felt bad, something bad happened again.
It's magic, man, and people struggle to understand this. But we all know a person who's always angry.
Yeah,
we could say that person is the bitter person or the angry person, and no matter what happened, they find something to be pissed off, angry, right? So somebody's driving too slow, somebody's not, whatever. And so their identity is so deeply rooted in those emotions that their whole life is a perpetuation of anger. So even if nothing happens today that makes them angry, they'll visualize something. They'll create a story. Somebody looked at me in a strange way.
They must be thinking this about me.
Look at this motherfucker misspelled my name at Starbucks.
Kunnowaka.
Or Petrumachu, whatever. So if they cannot find it, they'll create it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing when you start to create that mindset of gratitude and that identity of appreciation. You start to look for it. You start to create for it. And what you start to create, you start to attract more in your life.
Yes.
So your pattern of attraction, of creation, and the things you involve in start to change dramatically. And this, over a certain period of time, can result in phenomenal shifts in your life, both small and big. And the challenge that, again, people have is that they're very good at canceling those mind exercises because they're intangible. So you're doing your gratitude, you're doing your visualization, and then all of a sudden you achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. But it would have happened anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It would have happened anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to tie up that intangible thing I wrote in a fucking book and that picture I saw in my mind to that. It's a leap that the mind doesn't like to make. Right? So it happened because of this and this and that, and maybe a little bit of this, but the mind is very good at kind of ignoring the thing that brings us success and happiness.
It's because that guy did that, and that's how I got there.
Exactly. And so what tends to happen is that when people start winning with those type of tools, a lot of them then, after they get what they want, they stop. And it's weird, because why would you stop something that creates so much positive result?
Why stop the cause?
But they forgot because they have this misconception about what is the true cause of the effects and the result in my life. Yeah. And so reminding yourself that it's the inner habit, that inner attitude, that inner headspace, and how you cultivate that largely creates all the results that you have in your life. And the moment you forget this, you're going to let, again, the external world control the way you think and what you do. And you're going to try to control things outside of you again to achieve the next outcome,
Sure.
Which makes it so much harder for yourself.
Definitely. But you gave me so many tools like visualization, gratitude, and all of that. And you told me that you have a few clients, more than a few clients, that you help become better in their life. Is there a story, like, has there ever been a story like you helped a person and you were like, oh, I didn't know that this would work out so well? Were you ever surprised?
I'm often surprised by what's possible in people when they really put their mind at it, when they really clear up the junk, the doubt, the unworthiness, and all those, maybe past negative emotions, whatever, right? Because you can just never tell, right? People always kind of like set goals here, but really what they're capable of is way higher. So, I had a client who just went way above, in multiplying his sales at his company, right? People getting promoted twice in 14 months.
Yeah.
With pay raise. So, and when he got that job, he had no idea of like, oh, that's how good I'm gonna do, right? But by just applying some of those tools, by letting go of that negativity, minding your self-talk, and doing all those things, talk about or share with them, right? And it's really thanks to them because they put the tools. I give them a lot of tools, but I give them a lot of tasks, and they have to do those tasks and actions and things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's because of their commitment and dedication
And discipline.
And doing it, that's they get phenomenal results. So when people come and tell you like amazing results, you feel like it's freaking amazing. When people overcome years of shyness and struggle of talking, social anxiety, and then they go and they start dating and they start feeling so loose in social interaction, and they even go in fucking public speaking, which was completely out of what they would even consider doing.
I feel like you're telling your own story.
No, a lot of my clients is just where I used to be. It's very interesting, right? So a lot of my clients, I see myself in a lot of my clients because I see just me there almost, I used to struggle this way, I used to feel unworthy this way, I used to be the nice guy in this form of situation, right? And so that's why I'm able to see the pattern so clearly as well, right? But it's interesting that you attract the older version of yourself and able to facilitate that change in others. I think that's life comes full circle sometimes. It's really cool.
And them getting out of their bubble or comfort zone must make you really grateful as well. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's rewarding working with people. And that's for sure.
That's for sure. And then we spoke a lot about visualization, gratitude. About your YouTube channel.
Guys, do subscribe.
Do subscribe, guys. He posts a video every week.
3 times a week.
3 times a week. So if you need any help, or you also do sessions, right?
I do sessions. I have online courses. So you can check out all of this on my YouTube or my Instagram, or you can reach out. For one-on-one coaching or for my online programs.
Yeah, I'll put all of that in the description.
Awesome, man.
But yeah, thank you for coming to the show, Nenad.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this conversation.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon. Bye.